Okay, everybody, stay tuned for a quick and much overdue update on the Messerschmitt 108 project. All right, everybody, Paul Stetzwitz here with Weeks Aircraft with the Mechanics Corner and an update on the 108. And of course, I know everybody's out there wondering, where has Paul been? It's been 6-7 months already before we've actually seen any updates on this particular project. But it's been kind of an interesting year, and it started out with the fact that we had some issues across the street. We have 2 warehouses across the street that contain a lot of projects and parts and pieces. And we've known over the past few years we've had a little bit of a termite issue over there, and they were kind of eating the pallets and a few other things. Well, we kind of had a wake-up call, whereas one of the pallets actually collapsed and what was on it fell, and it actually damaged a wing panel to one of the projects in storage. So that was a wake-up call as to we need to do something about this. So we set up and we decided we need to spend some time in here and change all the pallets in these storage buildings. Well, guess what? That was 300 pallets, and 4 months later, to take care of that whole process. But it really had to be done because there was a lot of severe pallet damage, and it was going to actually cause more problems, and it was actually going to be dangerous to personnel going into the building getting things done. So we had to spend that time doing that. Then after that, we had to deal with Kermit's first airplane he built, the Der Jaeger. That had to come down after the and there had to be some insurance work done in there, and that airplane had some work done to it. Reassemble, we had to rehang that. And then from there, we had to deal with moving the F-3F biplane, the little Grumman biplane that used to be in Fightertown. We're trying to clear that room out along with the Corsair that's in there, and so that had to come apart, go back together again. Now it's just on display at the museum. And then from there, we had to deal with moving all the shipping containers. We have a large amount of shipping containers that were stacked outside that had the Lancaster project, Spitfire, and P-47 and various aircraft, also the Nardi 305. We had to relocate those, and once we did that, we took the Nardi 305 out, assembled that. We also took the P-47 out of storage and put that onto it's on a shipping stand, and we're getting that ready to display into the museum. So that has been a delay at this point, but that's because I haven't been working on the project. There has been some progress along the way, and we're going to talk about 3 things. Actually, one being the interior. We're going to talk about that, also the instruments, and we're also building a fixture for the left wing slat that was damaged, and we're going to talk about all 3 of those things, so stay tuned. All right, we're going to talk about the instruments to the 108. I sent these out for overhaul quite a while ago, and I knew this was going to take some time, so that's why I sent them out. And I actually had a little bit of difficulty finding somebody that would actually deal with the German instruments, and I actually thought maybe I would send them to Europe, to Germany. There's a couple places that would deal with it, but the problem with old instruments is they have radium dials, and if you pack these things away and you ship them across seas, they will get flagged by customs and they will confiscate the items. So good thing is I found a company in Washington State that actually did some instruments for the Paul Allen collection, the Flying Heritage collection, which unfortunately is closed at this time, and they had a pretty good reputation. So I sent them all up, boxed them all up to them. They had them for probably about a year. They had a little delay in what they were doing, but they came back and did a very, very nice job. Not a whole lot of instruments in the 108, pretty basic. Oil temperature, tank selection gauge that's here that you switch back and forth for tank selection, fuel and oil pressure, rate of climb, tachometer, altimeter. The clock wasn't sent out, but that's kind of where the clock lives. Turn and slip, and airspeed. Now the airspeed, actually, unfortunately, I sent them 2 and they actually overhauled the wrong one. This one's face, it goes up to like over 500 miles an hour. It's actually for like a ME 109. It's supposed to be a different, so I'm going to have to send that back and get a different face for that. And everything else that goes in here is switches and air vents and everything. We have all that. But these came back, they did a beautiful job. expensive. Just what you see right here, plus the compass, which is not the original compass that came in the airplane, but it's such a cool item that I had it overhauled anyways. This is the compass. This is actually bolted to the bottom, right in between the pilot's legs, on the kind of almost on the floor. And so I'm not sure what this came out of originally, but it is a German compass, so I had it overhauled. Probably going to put it back in because it's just so unique, and it is kind of the history of the airplane. All these instruments, what do you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 instruments overhauled. Yeah, the bill was about $6,000. Yes, this gets pricey when you get into instruments, and there's some places that are actually more costly than that. And then you got the shipping, and a lot of this has to do with the radium, and they have to remove all that, and that has to be dealt with. So that's why it kind of gets a little pricey, and it does take a lot of time to go through these instruments. So, but happy with all this came out. The instrument panel itself, after we took it out of the airplane, I think we're leaning towards probably replacing the panel. The panel does have some alterations that were done to it over the years that aren't quite right. There is a place in Germany that can actually make a brand new panel to the right exact specs, so probably going to get with them and have a different panel produced that is correct. This is not correct, this placement here originally, and this is also not correct. So we're going to have a new panel probably made for the piece. So good progress there. Next thing we're going to talk about is the interior and the upholstery work that's all finished up. All right, one of the other things that we sent out to get done that, of course, didn't involve us was all the upholstery work. And again, I sent this out, this is probably coming up on 2 years now. And I knew that this was going to take quite a bit of time. But guess what? It's all finished. And we got it laying out on the floor here, just kind of mocked up so you can kind of see where everything goes and what it looks like. And I tell you what, this guy did a fantastic job. Thomas McFadden did all this work for us. His name of his company is Bitchin' Stitchin'. And he did a fantastic job. And as he's gone through it, he had his problems along the way, but he stuck to it, and he finished it all up, all blue interior, just like it originally was done. All the side panels, and I think we talked about the same side panels in some of the other episodes. Those had to be all cleaned up and revarnished. He's done all that work. All the side pockets were sewn back in for storing your maps and whatever. All that's finished up. Seats, seat bottoms all done. I even actually stuck the chrome rudder bars that lay across right here to kind of give you an idea where those goes. And it gives you the idea how rich of an interior this was. I actually feel like I'm doing a commercial from the 1960s for see the beautiful interior of the 1938 Messerschmitt 108. And that's what it looks like, and very happy with the way it comes out. It's just happy that we actually got this part of it done, and it's all ready to go into the airplane when we get the rest of the aircraft finished up. So we're going to do some other little clips of it, and we'll actually point out some of the areas of where the upholstery goes and some of the things that are actually surrounding around the upholstery work. All right, if you notice on the left side of the upholstery of the airplane, this is of course the pilot seat. The pilot flew from the left seat, and this panel here has a large cutout opening right here. This was actually for the trim wheel and the flap activating wheel that go right here, so that was cut out. And these two holes right here, one is for the indication of the flaps and also the indication of where the trim is for the tail. So those are all cut out and done properly. And the little hole right here, which is interesting, the master switch on the 108 is actually a little wooden knob that you pull out, which actually closes a relay in the back of the airplane. So that's where that little knob comes out. And the rectangular panel right here is the little panel for the fuses. There's a little fuse panel there that has about 8 fuses for all the circuitry in the aircraft. So those are all cut out and upholstered around correctly. The one thing that is missing from the upholstery are the seat belts. We talked about that on a few episodes back. The seat belts are still out. They're in New Zealand. It's taken quite a bit of time to get the correct material. And it has to be certified material too, because it is a seat restraint and it has to be made out of the correct material. But they are making progress on that. They were concerned about how long it was taking, but again, I told them, just like I told Thomas with the interior, doesn't matter how long it's going to take. It was one of the last things that can go in the airplane. They're going to do it correctly, and I'm looking forward to seeing the seatbelts come back. That's really going to make this interior pop, because the seatbelts are such a unique piece of the interior. So there's the finished interior, and now we're going to talk about the slat fixture that we have to make to repair that component for the wing. All right, last couple of things we're going to talk about involve the left wing. As we all know, the left wing is still in the fixture going back together again, and the left wing suffered all the damage from whatever incident this airplane was involved in back in, I believe, probably around 1940, I think is when the accident happened. And first is the left slat. Left slat, once we took it off the airplane, and it fit the airplane well, it functioned good. But we took it off and we stripped all the paint off of it, and like everything else on this airplane, the paint was hiding a lot of different sins, and especially on this, about 3/4 of the way down from the inboard section here is a repair. And it's actually a pretty clever repair, because they didn't want to take the complete slat apart because it's pretty involved. And they came up with a very interesting repair, and it was hidden because of course it was filled with paint and filler, and you didn't see it. But once we took all that off, we found out where the repair was. Also, when you take the slat and you kind of tip it up and down, you hear things like rattling around the side of it. So at that point, of course, we decided we're going to have to rebuild this slat. We may have to actually rebuild the right slat also. It has some dents and a few things on it. It's pretty straight. It doesn't have any major issues. We'll see how this goes first. And of course, before we actually take the slat apart, and like the same thing like the wing, we have to make sure everything is in place and aligned. So Dave Martin, who's our little welder fabricator guy, comes in. We sat down and we come up with this slat fixture. And what this does is actually holding the slat in its proper position. It's keeping everything aligned. Little blocks here that we can tighten up and keep everything in place. It's also locating the attach points for the slat that go to the wing. And so once this is all finished up, we have a good starting point. When this is done, we can actually start drilling the slat apart. We have to take it out of the fixture, of course. The new skin will have to be made. Rick will be involved in that. Pretty tricky because it has a taper roll that's different from this side going back out to the tip, so that's going to be tricky. And then of course it has to be bent, holes drilled, everything shot back together again. So it's going to be quite involved. But we hope the fixture keeps everything aligned and keeps the slat straight. And then at that point we'll probably move on to the other slat as well when we get to the right wing. And one of the last things, of course, we had to deal with on the left wing is the landing light attach bracket. We mentioned this also earlier episode. Landing light bracket probably was wiped out in the accident, and they came up with this lovely little thing right here that was put inside the wing. And I took that out. I knew this was not an original piece. Of course, there are no drawings for the 108 that anybody seems to know of. It seems to be kind of a mystery. Is there any real technical drawings for the airplane? But I do have some people in the business that were actually able to photograph the correct bracket that holds the landing light in place. And from just some photographs and some dimensions that were sent, Dave Martin made up a proper piece to hold the landing light. Of course, this gets bolted to one of the ribs inside the wing that'll go in there first. We have to locate the holes for the landing light itself. But as you can see, a much more well-built part, a lot stronger. It's got gussets on the side. A lot better than this homemade piece that was done right here. So hopefully, maybe not exactly original, but from all we can go by in this case is photographs and some dimensions that people gave me, and from that we were able to make that piece. So there we go. Again, like I said, I haven't been working on it, but we are making some progress. Hopefully here in the next few weeks, or up into August here, we will get back full-time on the left wing and start putting that wing back together again, and start hopefully making some steady progress on the 108. Apologize for the wait, but again, like I said, a lot of other things take place around here that we have to take care of, important things, and the 108 was not pushed aside. It just kind of on hold for a little bit, and again, we're going to be doing some update videos here in the future.